So, the big theme that's been coming up this week, actually the whole of last month, is it feels weird to be talking with my jaw kind of locked. My jaw is in some pain. Can barely chew anything, but I feel a bit like the Godfather. So it's not that bad yet, luckily. Let me not say yet. Hopefully it doesn't get that bad. But the theme was to do with running and my relationship to running, because I realized that I have been running for most of my life, and I just had to sit down with myself yesterday and inquire as to what have I been running from and why. Because this running just isn't a sustainable habit. This running doesn't allow much rooting in the earth, in relationship, in self. And it's always requiring me to start over. And I realize that each time I run, it has just grown and grown the older I get. But each time I run, I am more isolated. I'm more isolated. I am less vocal. I am more like anonymous, like it's a disappearing. It's a deeper and deeper and deeper disappearing. And my most recent disappearing act really brought me to, in many ways, the edge of the world, at least of my little small world, because I had run off to a place far away from everything and everyone, out in the middle of nowhere, and kind of cut off all my contact. And it hit me at one day that I could die here and no one would know. I could die here and no one would know. And that was an eye-opener, because I was like, how did I get here? And it was like I had reached the end of my running. I had run until no one I knew me, essentially, which is, I guess, the goal, the point, because I didn't want to express or spill my pain upon them, so I just removed myself. I didn't want the conflict, I didn't want the difficulty, so I removed myself. And it had brought me to this empty, quiet, lonely place. And I was just wondering, like, what now? Now that I've gone so far away, that I'm nobody and I'm nowhere, what now? And it's been a slow journey since, but I've really been grappling with that idea, because I realized at that moment how dangerous it is to run. At some point it was the only thing I could do, because there just wasn't help, there just was no empathy, and there just was no hope of being understood or being accommodated So, as a young child, as a teenager, as a young adult, I resorted to... fuck! I just stepped into a pothole. I resorted to running, to disappearing. And if I couldn't run in body, I fled in spirit. I fled in emotionality. I just sucked it all in and emptied it all out. Like I just didn't give of myself. And that's the main way I've been running. And it's percolated. It's kind of seeped into, this habit has seeped into so many aspects of my life. Like I said, it's not just a physical thing, but also realized that I was running from my tribe. I was running from my culture and the hurt that I incurred from just a people that I felt just could not understand me and could not embrace me and saw me as something just inferior and even frivolous. And from that, I ran in terms of my whole identity, right? I took my identity from the clutches of the culture. And I became independent in many ways. I even blocked out the language. And it was so painful for me to even, speak the language, to be kind of within that space, that I would stutter incessantly, uncontrollably, until it was just too uncomfortable to keep on. My jaw. To keep on trying. And so I just left it. And I did the same thing with my emotions, right? My sadness, my anger, because Lord knows I have so much anger piled up from the stuff that my inner child has endured at the hands of the very people that claimed in word to love him and care for him. But in many ways, I, as a child, had to take control, right? And the only control I really had, because I could never confront anything, I was too small. I just didn't have the power. I didn't have the place, because culturally as well, a child does not really have a voice. And I would get crushed or shut down before even 3 words escaped my mouth of revolt or of upsetness or whatever. So that was an option, and I learned that very quickly, and that no one cared to actually hear anything but gratitude and happiness from my mouth. So a conversation was not going to happen. And as well, there was an intolerance for my emotional side, because tantrums would not be tolerated, outbursts would not be tolerated, and no one cared even why you were tantruming in the first place. They just wanted you to fix yourself. And so I learned very early to just do my emotions, especially the unlookable ones, just do them in private. Find a quiet corner somewhere, cry, and if you can't contain it, and if you can't give a convincing enough illusion that you have gotten over it, that will just continue to offend the people, then walk away, right? Distance yourself. And I just realized through my past that yes, I took on flight as a means of just dealing with and surviving the pain that I had internalized there was no place for out in the world. There was no place for my grievances. There was no place for my conflicting ideas. There was no place for my difficult emotions. And so just run with them. Run with them until you find a place where you can lay them down and exhale. But will I ever find that place? Was another big question that arose to challenge my escapism. Will this imagined utopian place ever appear as a result of my running and running and running? And I wasn't too sure about that. The minute I posed that question, I just wasn't sure. Because that might have been a child's thinking. And I think already I knew, although I could not afford to know that this was unsustainable. And at the same time, I also want to acknowledge that there was some legitimacy in the running, even though it was dysfunctional and even though it was maladaptive. Oh my Lord, those legs. Even though it was all those things, it was also such a invaluable protection to a kid that had no other options. So I had to also honor that part that was intelligent enough to at least create distance between me and the people that were hurting me without remorse, without a pause, and to just begin to move away from that so I could start to heal and regain some sense of self. But now I'm having to obviously put that down because, like I said in the beginning of this, it's just not working. And it has become a thing that is almost a disallowance of... It doesn't allow anything solid to form, because while something is trying to form, there I go running at the first sign of conflict, because that's just how I've always dealt with it. And the profound pressure as well of having this be your only kind of conflict resolution skill to run away is that it's obviously not pleasant. It's obviously very costly, energy-wise, just in terms of time as well, just in terms of starting over as well. It's costly. And there's a part of me that does dread the running. So what comes with this being my primary coping mechanism is also the need to minimize the conflict as much as I can. Try to preemptively stop the expill, I guess, or stop that moment where I will have to run, where things will get overwhelming and painful and I'll have to go. And that also hasn't been very great. That also hasn't been very constructive, because it has resulted in a codependency, right? In me trying to mold the direction of an interaction or of a relationship. And that's also just not very honest work. And it also doesn't keep the lid on for nearly as long as one would hope. It just doesn't work. And so it's like it keeps on coming back to the fact that I need to learn to stand by myself, or maybe I need to stand with myself, and I need to learn to express myself within the conflict, right? I'm not only worthy of voicing my needs, my thoughts, when everyone is happy with me. Removing the conditionality I placed upon my voice as something that can only be used within pleasantness, within politeness. And this goes actually directly to a scolding, I guess, I received from one of my aunts at a very painful moment where she had been betraying me in a huge way, and I stood up to her, and she raged on me, and she essentially told me, if I have nothing nice to say, then say nothing at all. And then I was essentially narcissistically discarded. At that time in my life, I could not understand what a narcissistic discard was. That I had triggered something within the person that they did not want to face about their behavior, and that their defense was to turn it on you. Their defense was to hurt you so much, in order to kind of balance out the scales, you might say, and to avoid any responsibility for their actions. So I didn't know that, and I internalized all of that, and I felt so guilty for the longest time that it was my words that had caused this relationship to fall apart in such a disastrous way, and final way as well. And that's really the attitude I took with me a lot from childhood, in a place that lacked any comfort, in terms of when things went down, no one was there to comfort you and assure you. I raised myself up from every heartbreak, from every disappointment, from every betrayal. No one was there to be like, hey, you okay? Don't worry about it. Here's what actually happened. No. So within my resources as a child, all I had as an understanding was it is very dangerous to speak your mind. It is very dangerous and very costly because your voice can literally, you using your voice can literally cost you everything instantaneously, just like that. And that's a fucking huge trauma. That's a huge trauma to contend with. That's a huge trauma to contend with. And it was like what I realized in my journaling yesterday was that I had put so much blame and burden on my voice about everything, all the pain that had happened. And it was like, it is because you spoke, it is because you shone or you shined that all of this went down, that you lost all of these people, that you ended up alone, that you ended up pissing people off. It is because you used your voice. And so obviously with that as a narrative, the only way to deal with that is to avoid the voice, right? To persecute and to silence the voice, right? If you using your voice is what stands between a a good peaceful relationship and a one that's just painful and chaotic and even terminated, if your voice is what stands between that, you better be careful about how you use it. But I didn't even realize that I was, putting all this unnecessary blame on my voice. Whereas my voice was never the problem. It was never because I spoke up. It was never because I chose to shine. It was because I was in the company of people that could not tolerate that. And I go back to a line that goes, if it can be destroyed by the truth, it deserves to be destroyed by the truth. You know, and the kind of sacrifices we make to keep fickle relationships intact, fickle bonds intact that cannot handle us, that cannot tolerate us, that cannot accept us at such a huge cost. And now I'm in a period of my life as well where I'm wanting to speak up, right? I'm wanting to use my voice. My voice is literally the way through to my destiny and my abundance and all these things that I've prayed for. It is requiring me stepping into my voice. But I find myself over and over running into that inner conflict, running into that turbulence or dissonance that does not want to go there, that does not want to upset, right? Because it's still that belief that the voice is a dangerous thing to use and it can cost you so much. But yeah, there's no more running, and I had to just confront my relationship to running so I could expose the old beliefs, the limited beliefs, the disempowered beliefs of how I was relating to my voice and how I was relating to how I could engage, the right I had to engage in conflict, the right I had to express difficult or uncomfortable things. And all of it really had to do with, fundamentally, all of it had to do with me forgiving myself. And I chuckle a bit when I say this because it's also a clue I have been given when I shared this burden with someone, when I share this difficulty I have with someone, and they're like, the minute you forgive yourself, you're gonna have such a big breakthrough. And that has really stuck with me because I'm realizing how so many of my issues, or not even my issues, my difficulties, have to do with my struggle to forgive myself. The pain body is perpetuated by this urge, this reflex, in every arising and passing moment and action to cast doubt onto myself and to persecute myself and to kind of like, yeah, to I don't want to say devalue, but I think that casting of the doubt and the persecuting, it has this feeling of telling me you're crazy or you've overstepped right now. And instantly, what that gets from my body, what that causes within my body, is a need to go silent, right? A need to go quiet. A need to check yourself. And realizing that for so long that impulse has been perfectly validated within my reasoning. It has been perfectly sound, and I have been listening to it religiously, not realizing that it was founded on an untruth, a profound untruth, a tragic untruth that just is the understanding of a child who'd never been comforted, who'd never been really embraced, and that I am the one today perpetuating that to a painful degree. I am the one that is the warden to my own imprisonment by by not trusting myself and not accepting myself and not forgiving myself. And the only way to really break this is to step into radical acceptance and radical forgiveness, to allow this voice to start just breathing and arising. I'm trying to think if there's something else I wanted to say. Another aspect of the controlling, how I have tended to control situations to avoid conflict, to avoid pain, and to ultimately avoid having to, flee, is through my performance of perfectionism and exceptionalism. Those have been my two strategies that have worked so well in the past to ensuring that I remain pleasing to the people that I'm dealing with. But this has been such a burden, like just mentally, it is so heavy, it is so costly to have to funnel all my attention and all my resources into constructing and maintaining this performance. And it's also founded, a lot of it, on a sense of not accepting myself, right? A lot of it is rooted in that thing of, if you speak what you really think or be how you really are, it will be just the worst thing you've ever done and you'll lose everything. And I don't know, lately this perfectionistic, exceptional gimmick it has just been it's just been really tiring. It's just been really tiring, and I want to be free, and I just want to be human again, and I just want to, like, rest my shoulders and unclench my jaw and unclench my fists and just exist and know that that's okay. And that's something I'm having to also confront. But like I'm saying, so much of it has to do with self acceptance, with self forgiveness. The one medicine I have never really truly given myself, or that I've um, never unconditionally given to myself, is that self acceptance and that self forgiveness. And I don't even know the full extent of what it will heal for me to do that. But I know that so many of my behaviors and my crutches and my dependencies are based on that, are founded on, you know, not accepting myself and not forgiving myself. So, yeah, what this all has to do with running is essentially also realized that I was running for myself, right? The main thing I was running from was actually not the people. It was running from meeting myself and running from having to use my voice, right? I was running from the version of me that speaks, the version of me that shines, the version of me that is angry in that situation. And I could not I could not stand to let that happen in my fear and anxiety of watching it all fall apart and kind of like being met with the pain of it all. So to run, and thinking this whole time I'm running from a person, a place, a thing, where truly it's me I'm running from, and I'm having to meet myself now. I'm having to meet myself and and to stand my ground and to hold long enough, to witness this thing, to see this thing. So this thing that is me, this thing that is just me, an innocent, deserving, yeah, perfectly good, flawed, but perfectly good and deserving human being. I've I've struggled for so long to just see myself as that, and to let that be the foundation of just where I start, with the conversation, where I start the day, where I start when I'm stepping into a dream or something. That I am deserving and good, and I'm forgiven and acceptable. Whoa, because when you think about it, without that as a foundation, you're really, and it's a necessary foundation. It's not even really negotiable, right? And so when you go pursuing things, is going to be inevitably the gradient that you're having to climb. That will be the mountain that you're privately trying to fight, and it just is like double, triple the energy of you just being in acceptance and resonance with yourself and flowing through something instead of yeah, trying to prove and trying to perfect and all that stuff. So just dropping into acceptance now and in the next moment and in the next moment and in the next moment. That's really what's been coming through for me, because I'm tired of spending all of this energy running and avoiding and dreading. I am tired. I just want to drop into a space where I can be in my own being, where I can just, yes, where I can just be myself, where I can just kind of stay by the. I'm trying to like remember what the name is for like the mast, the ship mast. When like with a ship, like the place where the ship is steered. If you can just stay there and not abandon ship, even when things get a little bit turbulent or a little bit windy or whatever. But that's what I'm trying to do. And to do that, I first need to accept myself. I first need to forgive myself. And first need to believe that I am one capable and worthy and deserving of of holding that steed, you know? So yeah, those are my reflections on running, and just growing tired of running, and the growing requirement to just drop back, and to just allow as the medicine or as the resolution to this dilemma. So that's me. That's me. And that's something I've really had to look at for such a long time, but I've been afraid to, because really the fear, like I've been saying, is the fear of facing myself. And learning that it's okay to do that. It's okay to do that. You don't have to give yourself up to try and maintain something on the external. Like, if it cannot hold the full you, then it's not worthy of you. You don't have to be the thing that you sell, to buy comfort and to buy love and to buy approval. And that's something I just never knew. It's something that I was never told, something that I was never shown. And it's all forgiven, it's all good, as long as all that matters is that I reach this deep recognition of this truth, which is truly in plain sight as you step out of those environments that have caged you, and disallowed you. It becomes so obvious, because everyone, not everyone, but most people without this background of trauma, of very specific, kind of very unique trauma, aren't battling against that foundation of non-accept of just, I don't know, maybe they're not. Maybe they are. Maybe they are. Maybe they are. I think maybe it's just a wound a lot of us are grappling with, just in different ways. But for me, it just really came to a point where it was taking over my life. And yes, I came to a point where I'm fucking 26 now. I'm going toward 27. And I'm having to truly reflect, like, am I going to be running this way for the rest of my life? Like, where does this go? Where does this lead? I'm tired of it. I'm tired of it. I'm tired of it. So that's where it all came from. And yeah, here's to standing tall, here's to standing one's ground, and here's to speaking up and to shining, because that's what you're here to do. And what someone else said in a video was that the fact is that you do shine. You know what I mean? The fact is that you do exist. And you're fooling no one but yourself by trying to deny that and trying to play small. It's like an elephant trying to, like, sneak around undetected as though it is like a little meerkat. Like, no, you're a fucking elephant, and everyone can see that. The reality of you is undeniable. So just stop denying it. Stop denying it. And there you will find peace. And there you will find just rest and harmony. So yeah, that's it. That's it. That's it. No more running. No more hiding. And more than anything, no more running from myself.